He deserves the truth, Cassina. Then let's both give it to him, Maurice. But be ready. My truth burns louder than yours. The room was filled with soft jazz and the clinking of wine glasses. Maurice wore her signature red dress, a color that had always meant power to her. Her son Daniel laughed as he poured more wine for his wife Cassina, who smiled, too perfectly. But beneath that smile was a storm, and Maurice knew it, because she knew Cassina. Not the woman Daniel met in that charity event, not the polite daughter-in-law baking banana bread on weekends. No, she remembered the alley behind the Blue Dagger Club, the screaming, the blood, the man Cassina left there. And tonight, she was going to remind her. In the kitchen, away from Daniel's cheer, Maurice cornered her. You forget whose streets these were before you came up. I know what you did that night. I know the name you ran from. Cassina's smile faded. Her voice dropped. And I know the child you abandoned in Kilimani. Want me to say his name out loud? Maurice froze. The wine glass in her hand cracked faintly. That's a lie. Is it? Try me. Maurice had spent years climbing out of the shame of her own choices. A child born from an affair. A bribe paid to silence a woman. Daniel never knew. And if he did, if he ever knew the real reason his father left, oh no, he'd never forgive her. But Cassina, she had scars too. And Maurice was done watching her son fall for a woman who once helped rob a wealthy businessman, then vanished for 2 years with a fake name. The man never recovered. Some said he even died. Maurice had proof. So did Cassina. The next morning, Daniel finds a torn envelope in his study. No name, just a photo. A girl, Cassina, fighting in a dark alley, blood on her hands. No date, no context, just violence. He stares at it, disturbed. Who would send this? And in the hallway, Maurice watches silently, satisfied. But just before she turns, she sees the second envelope, addressed to Daniel. This one isn't from her, and her heart drops. Daniel calls a family meeting. I don't know what game you two are playing, but if there are secrets in this house, say them now. Silence. Maurice opens her mouth. Cassina cuts in. I'll speak, but I hope your mother will do the same, because I know the name Samuel Kiprotich, and I know he paid for your silence, Maurice. Maurice's face drains of color. Daniel stands slowly. Who the hell is Samuel Kiprotich? Cassina says nothing. She just watches Maurice, trembling, sweating, cornered. Later that night, Maurice sits alone in her room, digging through old letters. She finds it, the paternity test she once destroyed. And as she reads it, her eyes widen. Plot twist. Daniel might not even be her biological son. She stares at the test, the timelines, the names. Her husband had lied. But what if Cassina knew this too? She rushes to her phone. We need to talk, just you and me. No Daniel. Cassina replies instantly. Bring the birth certificate. I'll bring the video. Daniel couldn't sleep. He sat at his desk, the bloodied photo of Cassina under a desk lamp. He had stared at it for hours. Something about it felt staged, as if someone wanted him to see her only in that moment. He opened his laptop. He'd worked in corporate finance long enough to know how to trace records. He started with hospital logs from the year Cassina went missing, then rehab centers, shelters, and there she was. Cassina and Jerry, admitted under alias Kiki Mora. Location, St. Agnes Shelter for Abused Women. He blinked. The picture told one story. The records, another. She wasn't hiding. She was surviving. But then, who sent the photo? His mother? His heart twisted. He picked up his phone and dialed a private investigator. I need to know everything about my mother, and don't leave anything out, not this time. They met at an abandoned church just outside the city, the same place Maurice once paid a priest to lie about her son's christening. Now the past had come full circle. Cassina arrived first, dressed in black. She had a phone in one hand, a file in the other. Maurice stepped out of her car, holding a worn birth certificate and an old envelope marked confidential. Let's end this, Maurice snapped. Agreed, Cassina replied, eyes cold. Cassina tossed the video on the bench between them. It played on loop, a younger Maurice handing money to a woman, the woman crying, holding a child. Her words clear. You're buying my silence? What kind of mother hides her own grandson from her son? Maurice gritted her teeth. He was a mistake, a stain on Daniel's future. Cassina leaned forward. He was Daniel's half-brother. You buried your shame and pretended it never happened. Then Maurice struck back. And you think you're clean? I have footage of you setting up that robbery. You used that man, drained him, then left him to die. Cassina didn't flinch. She whispered, I didn't leave him. I buried him. Because you told me to run. Maurice went still. She remembered. That night, the scream. The favor she did to protect herself, not Cassina. And Cassina had been keeping that ace the entire time. The investigator called him back that night. Sir, I've found something. Birth records. There's a chance your mother isn't your mother by blood. What? Her name doesn't match on the first registry. She adopted you privately at 6 weeks old after another woman passed away. The woman? Linked to a man named Samuel Kiprotich. Daniel sat in shock. Was he even Maurice's son? Then the second report came in. Cassina's past. Confirmed robbery, confirmed assault. But the man she attacked was a known trafficker. She was a whistleblower. The police covered it up to protect a judge's son. His hands trembled. Both women had lied. But one was protecting him from a system. The other, from herself. Daniel confronted them. The house was silent as both women stood on either side of the living room, tension tighter than glass. I know everything, he said. The adoption, the cover-ups, the lies, the secrets. He turned to Maurice. You hated her because she reminded you of who you were before the mask. Then to Cassina. And you married me without ever intending to tell me the truth. You both think you've played me. He walked out. No bags, no anger, just silence. And the game wasn't over. Alone in a motel room on the edge of Nairobi, Daniel opened the old birth certificate the investigator retrieved. A name was scribbled in the corner. Mother Atieno Kiprotich. He'd never heard of her. But his last name wasn't even his. Inside the envelope was a second sheet, a letter unsent. Written by Atieno before her death. To the boy who will one day wonder where he came from. I wanted to stay, but power stole that choice. If you ever find this, forgive me, and forgive the woman who raised you. She made sure you lived. Tears blurred the page. Daniel realized something. He didn't know who he was, but he knew exactly what he was going to do now. Find out the truth, all of it, even if it meant burning down every lie his life was built on. He traced the records to a remote village in Serah County. There, he met Mama Rhoda, the midwife who delivered him. She looked at him with haunted eyes. You're Atieno's son. I swore I'd never tell, but when Maurice came with that man from the city, they threatened me. I thought you were gone. Daniel's voice cracked. Who was my real father? Rhoda hesitated. Samuel Kiprotich, a political fixer, ruthless, powerful. He didn't want a son, not one born in shame. Daniel's knees gave out. His mother had saved him, but she'd also erased him. And Cassina, she knew this? Why? Back in Nairobi, Cassina showed up at Maurice's doorstep unannounced. We both lost him, Cassina said. But if he burns us, he burns everything. You, me, his future. Maurice's eyes narrowed. So what now? We fake a family again? No, we tell him the truth, all of it. Together, but on our terms. Maurice laughed bitterly. You don't want peace. You want control. Cassina leaned in. And you want your son to love you more than he should. That's the real game, isn't it? They stared at each other. Two women, two secrets, one throne, and neither was backing down. That night, Cassina met with a stranger in a nightclub back room. The man handed her a USB drive. Everything on Samuel Kiprotich. His crimes, his illegitimate children, Maurice's connections to his money. If Daniel sees this, Cassina nodded, he'll never forgive her, and I won't have to say a word. But as she slipped the drive into her purse, she noticed someone watching from the balcony. Maurice. Back at her apartment, Cassina stared at the pregnancy test on the sink. Positive, not part of the plan. If Daniel came back now, would he believe the child was a manipulation, or would he believe it was hope? She didn't get to think long. Her phone lit up. Maurice, we need to talk, urgently. He found Samuel's widow. She's talking. Samuel's widow lived in a guarded mansion, but she invited Daniel in. She'd been waiting years to speak. Your father hated weakness. He called you a mistake. He told Maurice to get rid of you. Daniel's hands shook. So, Maurice saved me? No, boy, she didn't save you. She made a deal. She let him destroy your mother's name in exchange for political protection and money. Daniel stood, furious. Cassina knew this, didn't she? She did, because she was there. The man who died that night? He wasn't just some trafficker, he was Samuel's enforcer. Daniel planned the gathering like a chess move, a charity gala hosted in his name, the perfect cover for the reveal. The room buzzed with elegance, journalists, politicians, investors. Maurice and Cassina arrived separately. No one knew they hadn't spoken in days. Then the lights dimmed. Daniel stepped on stage. Before we begin tonight's program, I want to tell you a story about identity, about power, about the people we call family. He dropped the bomb. His adoption, Maurice's deal with Samuel Kaprotich, Cassina's violent past recontextualized with truth. The USB files, now uploaded to a public site, the crowd gasped. Maurice went pale. Cassina stood, eyes locked on him. And if you're wondering why I'm doing this, it's because I want a clean start. One no one can take from me. Not lies, not secrets, not even love. Then he walked off stage, leaving the world to burn. The morning after the gala, Maurice's driver was found unconscious, her car missing. A note on the seat. You think the past dies? Ask Cassina, ask about Jude. Jude, a ghost from Cassina's darkest hour. Years ago, he was her partner and her nightmare. The man she ran from, the man who framed her for murder before she disappeared. The real killer. And now, somehow, he's back. Maurice finds Cassina pacing in her apartment. He's alive, and he wants revenge. He'll come for Daniel first. He thinks Daniel's the one who leaked the footage from back then. Cassina looks up. We have to stop him, together. Maurice stares. After everything you've done to me. This isn't about us anymore. This is about the child I'm carrying. Silence. Then Maurice whispers, he'll kill us both, unless we kill him first. Back in his private office, Daniel decrypts the final section of the USB, a folder titled Case 0. Inside, photos of Atieno, bruised. Court documents sealed. And a note from a police chief. You owe me, Maurice. I erased her. The baby lived, but the mother disappeared by force. Daniel realizes with horror, his birth mother was taken, not dead. And Maurice knew. She didn't just buy his freedom. She orchestrated Atieno's disappearance. Maurice and Cassina lure Jude to an abandoned property upcountry. Tranquil on the outside, lethal on the inside. They wait in silence, guns hidden, phones off, cameras recording everything. Jude arrives, older, wilder, deadlier. 2 queens, 1 king. You forgot how the game ends, he says, smiling. Cassina glares. You killed for fun. You ruined lives. It ends now. But Jude's not alone. He brought someone. A woman steps from the trees. It's Atieno, alive, silent, staring at Maurice. He saved me, Atieno says. He found me when you left me for dead. Daniel, tracking Jude's phone through Cassina's bait, shows up just as the tension erupts. He sees Atieno, recognizes her eyes, his eyes. Mama? Tears, confusion, betrayal. Then a gunshot rings out. Jude lunges toward Daniel. Maurice fires, misses. Cassina shoots second, hits Jude in the shoulder. Screaming, chaos, blood. Daniel holds Atieno as she collapses in his arms, not wounded but overwhelmed. They told me you were gone, she whispers. Now you know, he says. Atieno lay in the hospital bed, frail but alive. Daniel sat at her side, silent, watching her fingers twitch nervously. For the first time in his life, his world had a face he never imagined. His mother. Not the woman who raised him, but the one who was erased from his life like she never mattered. You saved me, she said weakly. You shouldn't have needed saving, he replied, voice hoarse. They stole everything from you. Cassina entered quietly, one hand on her belly. Her eyes met Atieno's. I'm not proud of how I lived, but I never lied about loving him. Atieno nodded. Just don't repeat what was done to me. Outside the room, the press swarmed. Family dynasty scandal. Hidden son of power broker Samuel Kiprotich. But Daniel no longer cared about headlines. He only wanted truth, peace, and maybe a future with the child growing inside Casina. But peace was never meant to last. Somewhere in Kisumu, Jude nursed his shoulder wound while speaking to two men in silk suits and dark sunglasses. They belonged to the Black Column, an underground political syndicate once backed by Samuel Kiprotich. "You want war, Jude?" one of them asked. "You better bring more than a sob story." Jude pulled out a drive. On it, footage of Maurice's illegal deals, audio of Atieno's abduction, a list of all Casina's aliases and crimes, with forged documents tying her to a planned assassination attempt. "I don't need war. I need disgrace. One leak and Daniel loses his company, his legacy, and his future child's name." The men exchanged looks, then smiled. "We'll fund you, but we want something back." "You'll get it," Jude grinned, "when Daniel is broken, when Casina is behind bars, and when the child is mine." One morning, Casina opened her front door and found a white box. Inside, a baby doll soaked in red paint and a note. "I always said you'd be a terrible mother. Let's prove it. Jay?" Her hands shook. That night, she begged Daniel to leave the city. He won't stop, and now he's coming for our child. But Daniel had already decided. No more running. He wants war, then we hit first. 2 days later, just as Daniel was preparing to take Atieno to a safe house, police surrounded his home. Casina was arrested at gunpoint, accused of plotting an attack on a senator, evidence planted by Jude and the Black Column. News stations exploded. Former street queen turned first lady of scandal arrested in terror plot. Daniel watched helplessly as she was dragged away. Inside her bag, a second pregnancy test, still unopened. Daniel returned to the same gala hall where he exposed his past. This time, he had only one goal: destruction. He called the cameras, the media, the lawyers. He leaked the footage of Jude's Black Column meetings. He exposed the police bribery, the planted charges. He dropped Maurice's remaining secrets, including a murder tied to Samuel's disappearance. "You want war? Fine. You want shame? I'll show you what shame looks like when it has receipts." The country exploded in chaos, but somewhere behind it all, Jude smiled, because the final move hadn't been played. Just as Daniel believed he'd unmasked every lie, a final package arrived at his door. Inside, a court-sealed document, DNA results. Not from Maurice, not from Atieno, from Jude. And the paper said, paternity match, 99.9%. Father, Jude Mwangel. Son, Daniel Kiprotich. Daniel stood frozen. No, that's impossible. But as he looked at the timeline, it made sense. The obsession, the jealousy. Jude didn't just want to destroy him. He wanted his life back, because it had been his all along. Casina stood in court, hands cuffed, eyes hollow but defiant. The prosecutor painted her as a manipulator, a con woman, a violent past wrapped in designer clothes. But her lawyer, a quiet, aging woman with a tremor in her voice, presented something unexpected. Evidence of police tampering. The planted USB trail. Video footage of Jude meeting the arresting officer days before the sting. But the moment that silenced the courtroom, Atieno walking in unannounced and taking the stand. "She's not a saint, but she protected my son when I couldn't, and I watched that monster Jude use girls like her and ruin them. Don't punish a fighter for surviving war." The jury was stunned, but as the judge leaned forward, a blast was heard outside the courthouse. Casina's prison transport never arrived at the jail. It was bombed halfway there. No fatalities, but no Casina. News declared her missing. Everyone whispered, she escaped. She was guilty after all. But she didn't run. Maurice pulled her out. In a hidden bunker beneath a rural chapel, Casina sat trembling, while Maurice, now silver-haired, cold-eyed, stared down at her like a general returned from the dead. "You always thought you played the game better, but I built the board. Now shut up and listen." Casina whispered, "Why save me?" "Because Daniel's not strong enough to do what comes next. But we are." Jude knew Casina was pregnant, but he also knew she'd never raise the child if she died. So he made a deal with a shadowy clinic in South Sudan. He bribed a corrupt doctor. He planned a surgical theft. Surrogate prepped. Casina's pregnancy term matched. Delivery forged. DNA concealed. And then the horror. He would raise the child as his own. Tell the world Daniel and Casina abandoned their baby in disgrace. and mold the next generation of Kiprotich legacy under his name. After the explosion after Casina's van disappeared, Daniel spiraled. He drank, he vanished, he broke things, he stopped speaking to Atieno, until one night, a nurse knocked at his door. She handed him a birth certificate. It had Casina's name, but no hospital listed. She gave birth in captivity, but that baby isn't in the registry. Someone erased him. Daniel snapped awake. If Jude took my child, then I swear to God, this game ends tonight. Maurice, Casina, and Atieno reunited in secret. No longer rivals, no longer enemies, but mothers. They formed a plan. Leak Jude's surrogate scam to the world. Draw him out with the one thing he couldn't resist, legacy. Use Daniel as bait, but arm him with the truth. Get the baby out before Jude even knows he's being watched. Maurice whispered, "This isn't a game anymore. This is a purge." Daniel, dressed as a hospital cleaner, entered the South Sudanese clinic at 3:47 a.m. His heartbeat synced with the fake monitors nearby. In the next room, the surrogate and the child. Jude sat inside, feeding the boy with a smile that could rot stone. "He'll call me father soon," he muttered. Suddenly, blackout. Maurice triggered the EMP. Casina breached from the rear with 2 guards she bribed. Daniel walked in as Jude reached for a gun. "Touch him, and I swear," but Jude didn't flinch. "Then shoot me, but I win either way, because I am his blood." Daniel pulled the trigger, not at Jude, at the oxygen tank. The room filled with smoke. When the dust cleared, Daniel held the baby. Casina lay bleeding from a shoulder graze. Jude gone into the smoke. Casina survived. Daniel and she named their son Truth. Marisa vanished again, rumored to be in Morocco. Atieno returned to the village, refusing the spotlight. But a new voice rose, Jude sending encrypted messages, vowing to return. "He bears my blood. He'll return to me. All legacies do." And deep in a black market lab in Ukraine, a vial is labeled Project Heir, Nairobi. Morning light filters through bulletproof windows. A boy, 10 years old, sharp-eyed, quiet, ties his shoelaces, presses his blazer flat, and stares in the mirror. Truth, Kiprotich Nyenga, his birth name hidden from the world, raised in silence and security. But today, he speaks at his first public school debate. As the son of the newly elected Minister of Human Affairs, Casina Nyenga, 10 years after surviving blackmail, betrayal, and bloodshed, Casina Nyenga reinvented herself. The press calls her the Phoenix Widow, a woman who overcame scandal, raised a child, and built orphan relief centers across East Africa. But behind the scenes, her security is military grade. Her files are encrypted tighter than the State House. And she has nightmares of Jude every single night. Her speeches inspire, but her eyes always scan the crowd. And behind every success, one fear: he's not dead. Daniel returns from a summit in Geneva to find a hand-delivered letter waiting at his suite. No stamp, no return address. Just, "You forgot about me, but I didn't forget you." "Your daughter?" Attached, a photo, a teenage girl. 14, curly hair, eyes just like his. Her name? Liorah? The mother? An old flame from Casina's missing year. A journalist who disappeared right after giving birth. Daniel stares at the photo and notices something disturbing. In the background of the photo, Jude, smiling, watching. Jude was never found. Rumors said he was dead. Others claimed he lived underground. But now, deep in Eastern Europe, he resurfaces as a ghost investor in a revolutionary AI surveillance firm. Codename, Project Heir. His goals? Rebuild the Kiprotich empire through data, propaganda, and manipulation. Use Liorah, Daniel's daughter, as a public prodigy. And reclaim Truth, the boy he believes carries his true bloodline, because now he knows. Truth is not just a symbol, he's the future president of Kenya. Now, 3 storms converge. 1, Casina, fighting to protect Truth while maintaining political power. 2, Daniel, torn between protecting his new family and searching for his hidden daughter. 3, Jude, building an empire in the shadows, playing a 10-year game no one even saw. And the first strike? Liorah, Daniel's daughter, arrives at Truth's school as a transfer student, wearing a necklace with a carved word, heir. Truth was quiet, observant, built for legacy. Liorah was wild, sharp-tongued, a storm in human form. They met on a rainy afternoon at the academy. Truth extended his hand. Liorah ignored it. "What kind of name is Truth? Sounds like something your mom made up to sell books." He smiled. "And yours? Liorah? Sounds like poetry with a vengeance." By the end of the day, they were inseparable. Debate champions, chess rivals, the kids the teachers whispered about, unaware. They shared the same blood and the same enemy. Cassina knew the threat was real. Liorah's appearance wasn't a coincidence. Someone moved her like a piece on a board, and only one woman knew how to trace moves before they were made. Maurice. Found in Tangier, Morocco. She now ran an elite underground intelligence ring, the Veil. Her clients were presidents, oil barons, criminals. She picked up Cassina's call and simply said, "I told you, we should have killed him when we had the chance." Cassina replied, "We didn't know he'd make heirs." Daniel returned home one night to find his guards unconscious. The front door wide open. No struggle, no blood, just silence. And a note on the mirror. "Your mother should have died when I told her to. Let's try again." Jay. He called every contact, every ally. Then the footage came. From a drone in a forest. Atieno, bound, surrounded by men in white masks. Daniel collapsed to his knees, then whispered, "If you want a war, Jude, you'll get it, but I don't lose my mother twice." In a hidden chamber beneath State House, Cassina met Daniel and Maurice. "We've been enemies. We've betrayed each other. But this war isn't about us anymore," she said. "It's about them." She showed them files. Liorah's school records, monitored by Jude's shell companies. Truth's DNA, modified. Someone had tampered with his records. And finally, a theory. One child is meant to be raised in light, the other in darkness. Jude intends to choose his heir and destroy the other. Silence filled the room. Maurice lit a cigarette. "Then we give him a third option," she said. "A child who plays both sides and burns his game to the ground." Truth and Liorah broke into the restricted archives at school as a dare. They found a file, classified, burn-stamped, both their names. Truth opened it. Blood samples, photos, DNA overlay. Then one phrase that shattered them. "Paternity match, 99.98%. Subject A and B, half-siblings." Truth took a step back. "You're my sister." Liorah's voice cracked. "That means everything I've ever known was a lie." They stood in silence, united by blood and rage. A package arrived at Jude's facility in Budapest. Inside, a single USB, and a hand-drawn picture of a boy and girl holding hands, with fire behind them. The message played, "You wanted to choose the heir, but now both of us have chosen war. Truth and Liorah. Game on." Jude stared at the screen, lips curling. "They think they can win." He turned to his guards. "Bring me the serum. It's time I became more than just a shadow." He injected something into his veins. Project Heir wasn't just about children. It was about him, becoming immortal. Truth and Liorah vanished the night after they discovered the truth. No phone signals, no school surveillance, their trackers fried. Cassina panicked. Daniel tore through networks. Maurice, too calm, but Truth and Liorah were 2 steps ahead. They'd planned it. They left behind a coded message. "You protected us too long. Now let us protect you," using skills learned in silence. Truth hacked into Jude's encrypted network using one of Maurice's old backdoors. Liorah traced his shell companies to 4 ghost cities across Eastern Europe and Africa. Their mission: track, trap, destroy. They weren't just heirs, they were weapons. In a single moment, 5 countries lost power. Nairobi, Paris, Abuja, Johannesburg, Bucharest. Hospitals froze, airports halted. Media feeds scrambled with one image: Jude's face, digitized, cold, alive. "The blood you protect belongs to me. I am the storm now, and every secret buried will surface." Then the screens cut to black. While Daniel searched for Truth and Liorah, Maurice disappeared again. Cassina tracked her to Istanbul. There, in a hidden compound guarded by mercenaries, she found her. A girl, 12 years old, reading Latin, carving names into bullets. Name, Serah. Who is she? Cassina asked. Maurice replied with the softest voice she'd ever used. My granddaughter. My son's first daughter. I kept her hidden from Jude, because she's his. Cassina blinked. You mean Jude is her father? Yes, and she's the most dangerous of them all. Now the players are set. Truth, the prodigy. Calm, calculating, carries the Kiprotich name and DNA. Liorah, wild, brilliant, angry. Wants justice, has Jude's defiance in her blood. Serah, trained in silence, loyal only to Maurice, fathered by Jude, deadliest of all. And Jude? He's preparing to release the Heir Protocol, a world-scale hack to assign all global citizen data under a new system tied to his DNA registry. If it activates, he becomes the master of identity, finance, and truth. Cassina, Daniel, Maurice, the old generation, can't stop him. But the children might, if they don't destroy each other first. In a pre-recorded message sent to all major global networks, truth appears on screen. Calm, focused, with Liorah and Serah behind him. You built this war on our backs. Now we own the war. You called us heirs, but we are not your legacy. We are your reckoning. 3 coordinates flash. Jude's last 3 facilities, and 1 phrase, let the bloodline burn. Target 1, Casablanca, Morocco. Truth infiltrates Jude's West African data vault hidden beneath a decommissioned power station. Using his mother's stolen political clearance and Maurice's old retinal ID, he bypasses the system. When guards catch him, he calmly says, I'm just here to erase a name, yours. He uploads a virus to the core server, frying half of Jude's Africa node. Target 2, Belgrade, Serbia. Liorah skydives from a smuggled aircraft at 2:03 a.m. Inside the underground Heir Protocol bunker, she sets charges while whispering, Your empire was built on lies. Let it collapse in truth. She detonates the east node, vanishing into the smoke. Target 3, Mombasa, Kenya. Serah, 12 years old, trained to kill, walks into Jude's final node with a pocket knife and a fake ID. She doesn't set explosives. She steals a piece of the code, the part that controls everything. Jude, bleeding influence, sends the Eclipse unit, blacklisted assassins, to retrieve Serah alive. They break into a Geneva safe house, killing 2 guards and cornering her. But Serah doesn't run. She waited. When they open the door, she smiles. And Maurice pulls the trigger from the shadows. That's my granddaughter, you bastards. Cassina, Daniel, and Maurice reunite for the first time in a decade. Older, broken, smarter, still angry. They track Jude's location to a floating command base above the Arctic Circle, disguised as a climate research vessel. The mission: Cassina disables the global signal tower. Daniel confronts Jude face to face. Maurice rigs the ship with thermite charges, but they don't expect what they find there. Clones. Of the children, hundreds, growing in tanks. Jude's voice plays over the intercom. Legacy was never about blood. It's about control. And I made sure the game never ends. Truth arrives on the ship via stealth glider, aided by Liorah and Serah. Jude stands before them, now sickly, fused with nanotech, more machine than man. I created all of you, he whispers. You exist because I willed it. Truth steps forward, and now we choose to end it. Each child uploads their own biometric signature into the system. Together, they override the Heir Protocol. Liorah pulls the final trigger. The clone tanks burn. Jude kneels in flames. He looks at Serah. You were meant to be me. She replies, No, I was meant to erase you. She places a timed explosive in his lap, smiles, walks away. Boom! Jude Kiprotich is no more. The Heir Protocol is dead. The clone labs are exposed. The truth about the Kiprotich dynasty leaks worldwide. Cassina retires from politics. Daniel opens a center for truth advocacy and whistleblower protection. Maurice disappears again. But Serah receives handwritten letters every year. Truth is 20, Liorah is 24, Serah is 22. The world now knows who they are, but only they know what they buried. They meet atop a skyscraper in Singapore. Truth lights a candle. For those who came before us, Liorah smirks. For those who tried to own us. Serah opens a briefcase. Inside, blueprints for a new world system. Anonymous, decentralized, clean. Let's play a new game, she says. But this time, Truth says, we're the ones writing the rules.